body data, anthropometric data, to be able to own that and share it, clearly is the way forward.
It's all about building that database. So they're looking at different geographic and demographic data.
Now we have the iPad foot gauge, and I've got all the store's data, and that can be streamed back to HQ.
I don't know about you, but sometimes it feels to me that we're creating apps and gadgets just for the sake of it, to solve problems that don't really exist. That's exactly what I thought when I heard shoe shops had started using iPads to measure feet instead of the humble foot gauge. But when I dug a little deeper, I found there's actually a very good business reason for doing this, and it's all about turning our personal details into valuable digital data. A journey began at a design studio just outside London, where I met the inventor and his daughter. I'm hoping you don't have to stand on the iPad, because I've had a few cracked screens in my time. How do you actually use this to measure someone's shoe size?
Okay, so it's really important that when we're taking the foot measurement, we actually do it weight on.
Yeah.
And clearly we can't stand on the iPad, so we've created what we call a foot plate, and I'm going to ask this young lady to stand on the foot plate. And the first thing to do is for her to select a character on the screen and input her age. This is all very important data that we're collecting. Now we put the iPad into the foot plate, and as we slide this forward, you can see the T-bar here captures the length of the foot. And what I do now is press this button, and it's telling me that Georgia is a size 3 foot.
The designers have also invented a digitape, a plastic claw, which measures the width of the foot and speaks to the iPad via Bluetooth.
Like so.
The animations are designed to get the attention of tech-savvy kids. If you've visited a shoe shop at half-term or school holiday, you'll understand why. The designers say this iPad-led method is more accurate because it doesn't rely on the naked eye. But accuracy is not the main motivation for this project, which Clarks have spent millions of pounds on.
For Clarks, it's all about building that database. That's fed live into their development centre in Street, and their last modelers and shoe designers there can look at that data on a day-to-day basis.
To learn a bit more about this database Clarks are building, I took a trip to their historic headquarters in Somerset. A photo on the wall is a fond reminder of the manufacturing that used to take place here, but which now happens in China. Today, the building houses research and development. It's like a Willy Wonka factory, but for testing shoes instead of chocolate. Here's a shoelace tester. This machine tests the gripping power of soles. As well as 3D printing, they also use traditional methods here. And it's also where they collect the iPad data. I've come to meet the man in charge of the process.
So I used to go out periodically, maybe every 10 years, and go do a foot survey. We'd get a foot specialist go out in his car and van and go and do some various foot surveys throughout the whole country, measuring children in schools or in our stores.
But that's no longer required now they've embraced the iPad.
The app that we designed and developed ourselves actually stores everyone's data, from the gender of the child, the age of the child, and actually width and length measurement. So that is stored within the iPad and sent over wirelessly, and that's globally. So we're in 13 countries currently, including China, Australia, in far reaches of the Bahamas. That data is so valuable to us in our product development and monitoring foot growth and health globally.
But surely everyone's feet are pretty much the same, aren't they, wherever you go?
A person's lifestyle and their diet will affect their body and foot growth, and will affect the width and length of each person's foot. The variations of lifestyle and diet throughout the UK changes quite considerably where you live, so we ensure that we have the options or the variants in our product.
Clark's foot data is something of a trade secret, and I wanted to find out a bit more about the insights it might contain. So I managed to track down a foot specialist to see if he could shed any light.
It's a goldmine of research and data when it comes to foot sizes in children. As a foot specialist, known as a podiatrist in the UK, we don't have access to that volume of data. So this information is really useful. I think in the past, when we've looked at some of the trends, we've seen adult foot sizes increasing on average 2 sizes, both male and female, in the last 30 years. In those areas where there is a high prevalence of obesity, and we know there is a potential link to changes in the foot type being wider and sometimes longer. If this was then correlated with the foot measurements that Clark's had, this could be quite important when looking to predict and manage future foot problems within the communities.
As we plough on into the digital future, more companies will adapt so they too can harvest data. That's certainly what the man at Clark's thinks who first had the idea of using the iPad.
Digital is the way forward. It takes an already a very accurate process and just enhances that for us. Absolutely, our competitors will be looking at different ways of being able to capture consumer data, body data, anthropometric data, to be able to own that and share it. Clearly is the way forward for most businesses.
From humble origins almost 200 years ago, Clark's now make around 50 million shoes a year. But the goal of the shoe company hasn't really changed. Make designs that match as closely as possible the greatest number of people's feet, even though everybody's feet are a little bit different. They hope this iPad data will help them do that job better. It's worth noting, though, that if you get your feet measured this new way, nobody will ask you for your consent. Clark say the reason for this is that the information is completely anonymous. They would have had access to it anyway, and it cannot be linked to you even if you ended up buying some shoes. However, I think this story should remind us that things we think of as familiar, like getting your feet measured as a kid in a shoe shop, have changed so much in the modern digital world, and everything is an opportunity for businesses to grab more of our data.